My fellow Americans, get ready for an incredible future because the golden age of America has only just begun. It will be like nothing that has ever been seen before. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
At 1 hour, 38 minutes, President Trump has just delivered the longest presidential address to Congress of the modern era. The president's speech tonight at once an explanation of his dizzying first 6 weeks in office and his demands to a Republican-controlled Congress to turn his agenda into law, the outcome of which will help to define his success. Among the president's demands, massive spending cuts, a $4 trillion tax cut, politically sensitive combination, particularly considering the narrow majorities in both the House and the Senate.
Certainly a lot of topics that he touched on, from the border to taxes to Ukraine as well. It was called The Renewal of the American Dream. That was the name of his speech. And we saw Democrats silently protesting on their phones, not paying attention many times, and also holding paddles with words on them, protesting things about Medicaid and as well as taxes, and saying that things that the president was saying were false. A lot of standing ovations coming also from the Republican side many times. And also we also had some disruptions where we had Al Green ejected from the chamber early on the speech as he was opposing what the president was saying at the very beginning. We will wait for the Democratic Party response, and that is coming shortly. And we want to turn back to our political analysts, Matt Klink and Jessica Levinson, and really just to have an idea of what your feel is about this speech, 43 days as president.
It's about what I expected from Donald Trump. I mean, it's kind of, it was a little bit of everything. A lot about what he had done, a lot about what he wants to accomplish, and to be honest with you, a lot like a campaign speech. A lot of these sentences and the paragraphs were things that he said, and this was not a let's bring the Democrats into the fold. This was we won. The Trump team is going to dominate, and let's go, we're ready.
He did an extended olive branch of sorts at the beginning of his speech to the Democrats in the chamber. We witnessed it. What did you make of it? Effective?
I don't know that I perceive this as an olive branch. I perceive this as exactly as Matt said. It sounded like a campaign rally or a pep rally. I mean, we've seen a lot of this before in terms of the energy, in terms of the promises. This was exactly what we've been seeing from the president in terms of actions. It's big, it's bold, and he is saying, I mean, he used words like revolution. Yeah. There's a common sense revolution when it came to the domestic agenda, foreign policy. Everything was centered on being high energy, really rallying, I think, the base, but this was effective. And one of the things we were talking about in putting a human face to so many of the pieces of the speech. I mean, I think we counted, I can't remember at this point, but more than a dozen guests where he wouldn't just talk about the border or crime or immigration, and then he would point to somebody who's specifically affected by that. And I think that is always effective to an audience to put a human face on what is happening.
Yeah, more guests than usual we see in the First Lady's box and in the gallery here. It's really quite astonishing and like you said, effective, especially when it came to the kids.
Oh, absolutely. The young man with brain cancer who wanted to become a police officer, and then he was made a Secret Service agent. His eyes opened up as big as saucers when he was handed that. I mean, we were commenting about it, not a dry eye amongst us. And then the children of the firefighter. I mean, again, it's a very, very effective way to take a policy issue and bring it down to the human level. And that's what you get. I mean, Trump can do this tonight. The challenge is going to be for the response. There's no interaction with people in that room, and it's hard to live up to that moment. And Trump feeds up. I mean, there's a reason why he creates that energy, because he feeds off of it, and then he creates more energy, and it's like the snowball rolling downhill.
How much of this speech sort of has a real tangible impact on what he's trying to accomplish going forward? Very much? A little bit? Not at all?
I'm guessing not that much, in the sense that this is a president we know. He's our past president, and he's not introducing himself to people in that chamber. He's not introducing himself to the American public. And people tend to feel very strongly about this president. You support him strongly or you oppose him strongly. And there is, as we've been talking about, a razor-thin margin in Congress. I think it's only a very few situations where you're going to see large support. Of course, all eyes, because we're having this conversation in March, are on the budget and whether or not there can be any sort of consensus, because really nothing happens if we are in a standstill.
Let's talk a little bit about the border. We saw him talk about the border and tout what he has done just in the short time that he's been in office. Let's take a listen.
Numbers of illegal border crossers ever recorded. Thank you. Media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
Might have been the line of the night.
That's the soundbite from the whole speech that everybody's going to remember. And that is the one thing that he can really point a flag or stick a flag in the ground and say, we went from 160,000 people a year ago illegally entering this country to 9,700. I mean, that's a 94% reduction. That's a huge number, and it's a massive accomplishment. And it was, next to the economy, it was the second highest issue for voters in November.
Well, and I think it's along the lines of his theme of I alone can fix it. You didn't need legislation. All you needed was me. And this obviously was another big theme because, as we've been talking about, much of what happened over the last 43 days, obviously huge changes, but not with Congress. I mean, we're talking about executive orders and executive actions, and I think obviously the immigration and the border were huge issues for the voters, but also this is a huge issue for him. I can change things. I don't need anybody else.
Yeah, you just need a new president, like you said, right?
Well, the DOGE issue has been front and center as we've been talking about Department of Government Efficiency. The amount of waste that they say they have found, the waste and abuse. The president spent a great deal of time listing what the department has come up with. He spent several minutes on it, frankly. I don't know how much of it we have, but let's see what we have of it.
And I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency. DOGE, perhaps you've heard of it, perhaps, which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight. Just listen to some of the appalling waste we have already identified. $22 billion from HHS to provide free housing and cars for illegal aliens. $45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is.
So you have two things happening here with DOGE. You have federal workers who have been fired, who are laid off, that were guests of the Democrats in the chamber, and then you have a Quinnipiac poll that said that Elon Musk has too much power, and 55% believe that. And here is the president in his speech, obviously touting the good that it's doing with facts that are not yet verified.
Well, I mean, look, that him reading off that laundry list of one thing is more ridiculous than the next, sadly, it's stuff that our government has spent money on, and people find it ridiculous. So that part is very popular, and DOGE is very popular. Elon Musk is not very popular. Elon Musk is very polarizing, and that's why you hear Republicans talk more about what DOGE is doing, and you hear Democrats talk more about Elon Musk is really in charge, because they know that polarizes people and it forces people to go into their quarters.
Which appears to me to be a separation. You have the substance and the style. People might agree with the cuts, how they're going about it, and the images that we're seeing, maybe not so much.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's very hard to find somebody who says, you know what I really like? Waste, fraud, and abuse. And I love paying taxes. And I love having very little say over what my tax dollars go to. So those are all popular talking points. I think it is absolutely important caution that we need for this to be fact-checked. And we also need to recognize that these are popular talking points that he's calling out, which are, as we discussed, in many cases, a small percentage of the budget. It's not to say that we should waste any amount of money. It's just to say that it's a small percentage of the budget. I think Trump cleverly, because this is popular, pointed to groups that are not popular and said they're getting money. So he used the term illegal alien a number of times. He talked about foreign aid. That seemed to be a high target when it came to this list of spending that he says, you don't want your money going to that, do you? Now, of course, we need to talk about the bigger pots of money and where our tax dollars do go and what really can happen if we're going to cut taxes.
But with the rapid pace of this happening, actually, we want to go right now to the Democratic response and Senator Slotkin. Let's listen in.
In national security. I was recruited by the CIA and did 3 tours in Iraq alongside the military. And I promise that I and my fellow Democrats will do everything in our power to be the principled leaders that you deserve. Good night, everyone.
Senator Alyssa Slotkin from the swing state of Michigan delivering the Democratic response. The Democratic Party, frankly, is in search of a new way, a new strategy to reach moderate voters. Was that effective?
A great choice by the senator from Michigan. Moderate Democrat, or allegedly a moderate Democrat. She won a swing state that Donald Trump also won. The messaging is not different. It's the same messaging from November. So it's a new face with old messaging. The Democrats haven't found it yet. That wasn't it. It was a good speech. That's an impossible task because there's no audience, there's no one to react to. But it was not something that's going to motivate the Democratic base to say, we found it, let's go.
What do you think needs to change for the Democrats?
Well, a different strategy, because we know that the old strategy has not worked for them. And, as we talked about, I think different messenger, but same message. And, while I may personally think that there are issues that we need to talk about with respect to our democracy, we know what motivates voters is the price of eggs, the price of gas, jobs. I think one of the big issues, obviously she started with the economy, but I think in retrospect, it should be the economy, and then maybe crime and immigration. But hearing kind of the abstract concepts of you need to be involved, while it is absolutely true, while it is absolutely important, it tends not to light people on fire, the truth is. And the speech that we saw from President Trump was a very high energy, let's kind of light this room on fire speech.
Jessica Levinson, Matt Klink, always good to have you both on board. Continued reaction and analysis along with the rest of the day's news tonight on the KTLA 5 News at 10 and 11. We'll see you then.
Good night.